Japanese are planning something bigger.
So what's the target?
We believe it's Midway. There's so much that's been written about these guys, and there was a book that Leighton wrote in the 80s that really just told his entire journey, and a lot of that we have in the film. I mean, I think that's important on a human level, because at the end of the day, these are men fighting other men, and you have to understand that, and I think that's where the real courage takes hold.
Japan was not a monolith going into this war. There clearly was a dividing opinion on whether or not they should enter it. And you know, the admiral he's talking to went to Harvard. He knew America. He knew kind of the industrial strength. He knew that this was, we quote, couldn't win a long war. And I thought you had to frame the movie with something like that. Also to make it a human story and to understand that we're not just going to tell this jingoistic story about, you know, Japanese carriers exploding. We are going to delve into why this is important, why this is ultimately a human story.
It was for me important also, like, kind of to introduce two of my main characters, you know, together, and they're not enemies. They're like kind of very civilized, have a conversation, and you learn a little bit. Yamamoto doesn't want to have this war either, and but he naturally has to do his duty.
You'll remember this moment for the rest of your life.
I'm really somebody who really wanted to, with this movie, honor, you know, like kind of sailors and fighters and pilots who did these incredible things and defended our world from, you know, like fascism.
Man, my family's Navy, so my grandfather was in this war. My uncles were Navy lifers in the Navy, so for me it felt like doing them a service, you know, and just being a part of it was, and this story is beautiful, so yeah, all of that.
You know, both my grandparents fought for Britain in the army and the air force, and you know, one of them left Nazi-occupied Austria as a political refugee. So you know, my life has been shaped incredibly by the Second World War.
I have such tremendous, I mean, we both do, but tremendous amount of respect for all our service members. And when you get, this is the way that we honor them. This is what we do for a living, and we get to do something that we love. And when you're able to honor your country in a fashion like this, you know, I never served. This is the closest I get. And if I can do that with a heavy heart and a little bit of talent, you know, then that's going to make me happy.
I think that one of the reasons we told this story was not just to honor this greatest generation, but also the current American military is bearing this incredible burden over the last bunch of years that to some extent, unfortunately, is not being as acknowledged as it should. So to show the kind of courage and sacrifice, not just in the past, but in the current moment of the people on the front lines was really important to all of us.
There's this kid. He didn't think he could cut it. I figured it was just the usual jitters. I take him under my wing. He was fine to be scared.
For me, telling this story, it's the things they went through are almost unimaginable. So you have to reflect that, and the way to reflect it is by showing that these people are human, that they have a full range of emotions, and that they're not just machines going into war. And you knew that Roland Emmerich was going to provide us with these incredible explosions, but what is it like to actually stand on a deck as something is burning, and how horrifying that must have been. I mean, that's the push and pull the entire time. You know, you show up to these movies because you want an event, but you also, what differentiates it from a comic book movie is that these are real people and real stories, and you want to see them too.
It's inherent in the story, you know, you read about it and you say, oh, that was a great moment, that was a great moment. You have to just choose, you know, the right balance of these great emotional human moments with the big, you know, like battle moments.
Really what signed sealed the deal for me was the relationship with Anne Best, played by Mandy Moore. You know, this idea that we see Best out there on the carrier, you know, doing everything he can to win this war, but really what's driving that is just to protect his family.
Today we're gonna be underdogs. Today we prove the American Navy isn't a joke.
They were all, you know, didn't matter whether you're an admiral or, you know, you were down below deck, you know, in the kitchen. You were all still targets.
You're all on that ship.
You know, you're all on that ship, and you know, you had to all work together. You were fighting really for for each other as well as your country.
There's this story of a close-knit fraternity of pilots who, that is essentially a revenge story, which is we lost a friend, and this is not made up. The American military between the wars was so small that when a ship like the Arizona blew up, you almost certainly knew someone aboard her. So it was very personal.
They all have such a big responsibility, and how they deal with that responsibility is very different from all the different characters. Obviously, my character is younger and is scared and really needs someone like Dick Best to kind of tell him that he has what it takes to make change, and however small that change is, it's important.
And it was really important for us to have done a scene where he doesn't want to go out there anymore, and Dick Best talks him into it. Because I think that happened a lot in the war. They said, no, we have to do that. We're the cavalry. We have to hold the fort until the cavalry arrives. There was kind of the feeling there.
This is the kind of writers that I want to be involved with, that represent reality. We all speak to our mother differently than the way we speak to our homeboys and our partners and such. And so to have that reflected in this, heightened emotional situation, I thought was incredibly interesting.
Yeah, that relationship, that camaraderie, that brotherhood, band of brothers. I mean, it's the truth.